All right, welcome back to the channel. So look, man, I'm gonna do another video on this subject because the subject deserves it, okay? Now, as you guys know, there has been videos being put out, a lot of conversations going on the internet about Tyson Fury's gloves for the Deontay Wilder fight #1 and Deontay Wilder fight #2. Okay, so there's a guy, the most significant video that I know of it being put out was put out by a guy named Young Pharaoh. So shout out to Young Pharaoh and the work that he did on that. And I think Blue Blood Sports TV also did a video about it. But there's also, it's being discussed more and more on media, on larger boxing outlets. But the way that they're talking about it, as if they're just completely dismissing it and referring to it as conspiracy theories and things like that, right? So when I hear that, it made me look at the subject a little more closely. And that's what the purpose of this video is, because, long and short of it is, man, hey, when somebody's saying there's something, you can be a sore loser. But just because you're a sore loser doesn't mean somebody didn't cheat. And if you believe that somebody cheated, if you don't believe that they did it, the easiest way to get to a conclusion with that is to investigate it. But let's talk about that specifically in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So let's cut to this, all right? This is my general point, and I'm gonna go through this. Look, man, just because somebody is cheers for a fighter and their fighter loses and they point out something that doesn't look right, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're wrong about what they're pointing out, okay? Now, as far as this thing with Tyson Fury's glove and the whole thing, my original take on it was, yeah, I wouldn't doubt that the guy cheated or something funny happened, because that happens a lot in boxing. People cheat. It happens in sports all the time. I don't really see how that's going to change the outcome of the fight. So, you just got to, move on with the next fight, and, it's going to be what it's going to be. And because I figure that Tyson Fury, that people are going to try to get edges wherever people can get an edge. Okay, that was my original thought on the matter, right? So I didn't put a lot of credence in it. I still am I still have that same thought process that the fight's not going to get overturned because of it. But when I read World Boxing News's take on it, I thought to myself, man, you guys are really over the top with this. Okay, I understand why you could say that people are being a sore loser, but when you see knuckles hanging out of a glove, that's a reasonable question. To say that if somebody points to and sees something on television, because everything is taped, right? And they see something, they see this knuckle coming out of a glove. Why is that unreasonable to assume that if you see a knuckle hanging out of a glove, out of the bottom middle of a glove, that could have been intentional, that could have affected the outcome of the fight, because you know that your knuckles are not supposed to be seen in a glove? I don't see how that is unreasonable at all. The only thing that I think is unreasonable here is when people they're actually seeing a knuckle hanging out of a glove as if the person that sees the knuckle hanging out of the glove is the one that's losing their mind. Now, I read World Boxing News's article, right? And this is echoing a lot of the things that I've heard from people. They went and they asked Ben Davidson, and Ben Davidson said, oh, there's no way that they could have cheated. There's sometimes he throws punches that are just, kind of slapping punches. Other punches, he throws punches where he doesn't really intend to land it. That was just a throwaway punch. Okay, it was a throwaway punch. How is his knuckle showing? How does the statement by Ben Davidson account for the fact that the guy's knuckle is hanging out of a glove? Either the knuckle is hanging out of the glove or the knuckle is not hanging out of the glove. If the knuckle is hanging out of the glove, it is reasonable to ask and wonder why a knuckle is hanging out of a boxing glove. This boxing, And I know some people might not appreciate this, but boxing is not bare knuckles fighting. Bare knuckle fighting is the sport where your knuckles can be exposed, or where you have a thin layer of tape over your knuckles. But even then, in bare knuckle fighting, I think that they still had wraps around their hands. This is literally bare knuckle, where you see the knuckle. So I have a hard time understanding. Now, I can understand my position stays the same. Yeah, I don't doubt the guy cheated at all. People cheat all the time in boxing. I did a video, it's up on the page, where I said it. I was like, hey, you know, cheating happens all the time in boxing. It absolutely does. People throw hip shots, people throw low blows, people do all kind of stuff that's not caught. And that doesn't mean that the fight is going to get overturned. That's just really is a part of sport. It really is a part of boxing. There's a reason that there's a ref there. There's a reason that there's drug tests. There's a reason why the Nevada State Athletic Commission and the opponent's fighters are able to go into the gym, go into the other fighters' dressing room and watch the wrapping of the glove. There's the reasons why those exist is because people will cheat. That the very fact that you have those safety measures in place acknowledge the fact that somebody will cheat. We all know and have heard boxing be referred to as a crooked sport. When Canelo Alvarez got a wide scorecard on Adelaide Bird's card, what did they scream? They screamed corruption. They didn't say, well, you know, it's just how she saw the fight. No, it was corruption. It was grand corruption in the sport of boxing. Anytime that there's a decision that somebody doesn't like or a wide scorecard, Teddy Atlas is exploding about how crooked boxing is and how crooked the alphabet soups are. So you have to help me around this world boxing news. How in the world is all of that stuff reasonable, but yet you see a knuckle hanging out of somebody's glove and you act as if the person that claims that there's a nut that says, hey man, there's a knuckle hanging out of his glove. That's not right. Something's funny about that. How are they conspiracy theorists and out of their mind? What's the difference between a wide scorecard? If you see a wide scorecard you don't agree with, that can be corruption, but you see a knuckle hanging out of a glove and that can't be? It doesn't sound right, man. It just doesn't sound right. So while I say, hey, man, this is something that happened, I'm not going to deny. Somebody asks me, comes to my page and says, hey, Vinay, what do you look at the picture? What do you see? I see a knuckle. Oh, that freeze frame, that looks like a knuckle hanging out of his hand. And that looks like a knuckle headed straight towards Deontay Wilder's head. That's what it looks like. His palm is open. He hits with an open palm. There's a skin right there, a little space between fingers, which means his fingers are exposed to the air. His knuckles are right there. He's a human being, so his knuckles are right above that. They're exposed to the midair. They're exposed. But all I seem to hear from the other side of it is there's no way that that could have happened. And my thought is, what do you mean there's no way that can happen? I see the knuckle. It happened. You can tell me, oh, well, we check the gloves when we get into the ring. We check the gloves when we're there. Okay, you check the gloves in the locker room. Great, you check the gloves there. Okay, the referee looked at the gloves in the corner. Okay, great, he looked at them there. The referee checked it afterwards. Great, they checked it afterwards. I still see knuckles. I still see bare knuckles in a boxing match. None of that explains why I saw knuckles in the glove, and it's not even an attempt to explain why it would be there. Oh, the gloves, there's different gloves that are built different ways. Okay, there are gloves that are built different ways. Okay, so you use the particular type of glove that Tyson Fury uses allows you to hit somebody with an open knuckle. Just because they're designed that way from the manufacturer doesn't mean that his knuckle wasn't exposed. So it just seems to me that when people talk about Deontay Wilder and they say even though he never, according to Deontay Wilder, he never claimed that the 40-pound costume was the reason why he lost to Tyson Fury. Even though he never said that, people run with it like that's an excuse. Okay, so what's the excuse? You're giving me some excuses for me seeing a knuckle hanging out and you not wanting to investigate it? Because that's all it takes. It takes an investigation. That's it. Just like Jimenez, the lady, if you do recall, when Jimenez fought Cruz for the WBC 168 pounds women's title a few months back. And afterwards, an old opponent of Jimenez said, Alejandra Jimenez said, hey, you know, I think she's a man. She sounds like a man. She walks like a man. We think she's a man. And the WB said, oh, that's ridiculous. They came out, they said, we've talked to her. We know that that's not the case. Okay, then she turned up and popped dirty for performance enhancing drugs right after that. But at least you got a statement from the WBC saying that no, that's not the truth. But I was like, hold on, man. If that's not the truth, just show her birth certificate. Just show her birth certificate. Confirm that her birth certificate says this. Or if that's not enough for somebody else, then hey, man, do a test to prove it, because it's not possible. So the big thing here is, in conclusion with this for me, is yes, there could be some sore loserness to people looking for reasons. If somebody's looking for a reason that Deontay Wilder lost, right? Just say that's their only reason for doing it, right? That I'm going to go look at this tape and I'm going to look for something funny with Tyson Fury, okay? Because I'm a sore loser. Just assume that that's the reason that I did it, okay? And then I see a knuckle hanging out of the glove, okay? A defense, the only defense to the knuckle hanging out of the glove is one or two things: that's really not his knuckle, or number two, that it is just, you know, it was a freak accident. It was a freak accident. You know, his laces were loose, something, and it was complete. You have to explain that. You can't explain it away just because the guy that found it was a Deontay Wilder fan. You know what I mean? Whether he was looking for an excuse originally has not related to whether or not that's a knuckle hanging out. Once you see the knuckle hanging out, you got to go to the Nevada State Athletic Commission and you got to say, hey man, that's a knuckle hanging out in that's a knuckle hanging out in the air. That's a bare knuckle hanging out in the wind. How did that happen? That can't be allowed to happen in the future. And the Nevada State Athletic Commission look into it and say whether that's the case or not. But to just sweep it away as a grand conspiracy theory when you see a knuckle hanging out of a glove just seems to me like you just want to sweep this thing under the rug as quickly as you can for maybe your own personal reasons. The fact that a knuckle is hanging out of that glove is more than enough for those guys to conduct an investigation, get to the bottom of it, and if for nothing else, the safety of fighters going down, into the future, man. Boxers should not have to get into a ring and have the ability for one of those gloves for your knuckle to pop out of it and for you to get palmed, for you to get hit with the underside of your glove, but which is really a bare fist. Nah, man, it's just not right. But anyway, it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section. With that, I'm out. Peace.